That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And the month of April has come around again, and you know what that means? It's our new tradition. We're covering some Jim Carrey movies because he's the king of the fools, or some such excuse that we had. Is that we tied it in, Dragon, April Fools, or is it that it
Well,
was the
that was.
anniversary of The Mask?
Well, remember, it wasn't just The Mask. His big splash was in '94, so you had three huge Jim Carrey hits
Right,
that
but
all
how
turned
does April
30.
factor into that?
Well, we needed to cover them. We thought we might as well theme it to a month, and, April because comedy.
Okay, there we go. So it was April Fools.
Yeah, so it was very much April Fool's, but, yeah.
Okay, so believe it or not, folks, Dragon, I don't even know if you know this entirely. This was my first time watching Liar Liar.
Really?
Indeed.
First time ever.
First time ever.
Wow.
Um yeah, I know. It was kind of one of the it was one of the last Jim Carrey, like big Jim Carrey, like 90s high concept comedies that I had not gotten around to. Like I even got around to The Cable Guy before this one, as you know.
Cable Guy.
And I mean, Dragon, what do you think? I mean, this thing is charming as all hell. It's great. I think out of all the high concept Jim Carrey movies, I say high concept and like in the realm of like, Bruce Almighty, where he's playing God, or Yes Man, where he has to say yes to everything, like not necessarily counting The Mask because that kind of veers more into superhero territory, but the high concept, just as far as like Jim Carrey gets put into kind of like a strange situation with some sort of like supernatural element to it. I think this is far and away the best, and there's definitely some really really standout sequences. I think this film is kind of a masterclass in the illogical logic of it all, and I'm sure we'll break that down. I will say that it's kind of interesting watching this film because it's like I'm not sure because Dragon, the one thing about this movie, and the guy he has to be honest about it, and he's a terrible father. But I'm not,
Yeah.
Dragon, I don't know. It's like the one hang up I have about this movie is that I'm not sure I ever fully get on this character's side as he's like going through the motions in this one day. Like, I don't necessarily know if one day is enough to turn this dude around. But you know what? That's a silly little plot hole nitpick. I don't really care. I think it is funny how I feel like this movie, if it didn't kind of solidify the trope of like the overworked dad who isn't there for his son, it definitely it's definitely the shining point of that sort of trope. I think it's like probably that trope, just basically the blue meth of that trope. Essentially, Dragon is this movie, the busy dad trope. So yeah, definitely obviously a really really funny great concept. I thought the kid that they had playing his son, was charming in a Jake Lloyd and Jingle All the Way kind of way.
Oh,
Like,
come on. He was better than Jake Lloyd.
I don't say that disparagingly, honestly. I specifically say Jake Lloyd and Jingle All the Way because I think Jake Lloyd actually was more charming in Jingle All the Way than the Menace.
Well, yeah.
He's kind of in that ballpark.
Well, yeah, he actually, had lines that that didn't feel like like cue cards being read.
Right, right. Koki, yes, we do not. We have already done a retrospective on the Grinch, but that was honestly a while ago. Like, it's one of those things where it came out. Did that movie come out in 2000?
I believe so. Yes,
We might want to
2000.
consider doing like a 25th retrospective on it because, like,
Well, yeah, but we did cover it for
yeah, but
season.
that was
Yeah.
forever ago, Dragon. Like, that was probably in the first couple of years of us being a channel. I don't know.
But I don't know if your heart's grown three sizes since that podcast. Did you?
I seriously think this is a discussion we have to have off air, though. I floated it around, just the idea of like, some of this stuff that we covered in the early days of the channel, like we really should consider just giving it a second glance. I don't know, maybe. Anyways, we're not here for that. we're not planning on covering Sonic the Hedgehog in this. I mean, they're their own thing. We're very much leaning on Jim Carrey as the leading man in this series of retrospectives, and also neither Dragon and I or neither Dragon or I or are very big Sonic fans to begin with. Like I like the Genesis games. That's about it, and even the Genesis games I can't really get very far in. So, all right. Anyways, Dragon, what say you about this movie?
So this to me is like a Hall of Fame Jim Carrey movie. I appreciate even. I've always loved this movie to pieces. I think I appreciate even more in adulthood in the post Better Call Saul world. Just with the appreciation for like the actual accurate kind of legal procedural. Well, meaning with the Albuquerque verse spin to it.
Uh-huh.
But that's the thing. I mean, this is not just a funny court movie. It's not just a funny lawyer movie, but it's got a great balance of comedy and pathos. And honestly, that's something I've always really appreciated with this. Where as many laughs as you have, we do have these few and far moments of just genuine, awesome pathos that still kind of guts me like a fish to this day. Tom Shadyac, I feel, was Jim Carrey's best director. He only worked with him 3 times, and each time was like a huge kind of benchmark for him. And I feel this was this I think might have been the best he got out of him, frankly, in terms of like the end product. I think there's like not a moment wasted. I think just he was Jim Carrey's best director because especially in this movie he struck that balance of comedy and pathos. Just a real. I mean, this was really his graduation from Ace Ventura, which kind of it was the big splash for him to kind of demonstrate Jim Carrey does have range, or at least the capability for range, which he then explored. Thanks.
Dragon.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, you cut off. You said he had range, and then he then explored that range, and then you cut off. Sorry.
Okay. But yeah, so it's the movie that showed that he had range, and after this and the big three in '90, the big 3 movies in '94, that was like his big splash. You pretty much got a blank check to do whatever he wanted, and this movie I think really was like, hey, he can really he can explore other avenues than the comedy avenues, which he definitely did, like Man on the Moon and Truman Show and so on and so forth.
There is a couple like really bizarre foreshadowings to Man on the Moon in this movie that kind of took me aback. I'm like, oh my god, it's almost like the ghost of Andy Kaufman, like like possessed Jim Carrey in those moments.
Oh yeah. So at the end of the day, I think this holds up. I think it's still very funny. I think there's a solid arc for the character, and again, it's a good digestible watch because this thing is Tom Shadyac. He's his nickname in the editing room is Shady Hack because he edits things down to the bare minimum. And actually, I think the editors gave him like a little like a golden axe like kind of gift or something. It was like a little just to demonstrate like man he really because his philosophy in editing is when in doubt leave it out. So that's why Shadyac's films are paced very economic. Like no 90 minutes is like the longest movie you'll probably see from. I forget how long Bruce Almighty is, but yeah.
90 minutes are like the equivalent to the punk bands that put out like 90-second songs, and if you have like a 4-minute song from them, it's like, oh shit, oh they're really going hard with this.
There you go.
All right. Kokias, we're not going to argue the semantics on if Jim Carrey's not the leading man on the Sonic movies, because like I said, it's like at the end of the day, the Sonic movies really aren't what we're trying to cover here. We're trying to cover.
It's not called Dr. Robotnik. It's called Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, I think that's a pretty clear distinction.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, maybe eventually once we run out of like, these types of like art, obviously Jim Carrey is like the headliner here. I don't know. I'm just not that interested in Sonic, Kokias. I'm sorry. Sue me. Like Jim Carrey in this movie. Anyways. All right. So Dragon, what do you have background?
Yes.
All right.
So there were a pair of writers, Paul Gray and Stephen Mazur. Mazur was actually a lawyer in real life. So these 2 guys, they wrote a movie, legal comedy. And they had the script, and they kind of took it around. No one wanted it until they reached, Brian Grazer and Ron Howard's company, and they were looking for, oddly enough, they were looking for a lie-based movie, and this just fell into their laps. I don't know if maybe they saw. I don't know if, well, this is before Big Fat Liar, but that's what I'm saying. This was, they were looking for, lies were the way of the late '90s, early 2000s, apparently.
Uh-huh.
So, again, this is Jim Carrey post that big splash I was talking about, post like the trifecta of '94. And then after that, he went on to do some mega hits like Batman. For him, that were Batman Forever. It was a big gig for him, and he at this point he had name recognition. He was a huge star. After being able to write his own ticket and getting like big franchises. So, he and Tom Shadyac, they love work again. Ace Ventura, he kind of knows his whole career at Ace Ventura with Shadyac. So these guys, they really get along. They like working together. So they were kind of brainstorming, like, they love to work together again. And they wanted kind of a more grounded movie, basically this wasn't like written in granite, but it was like, let's see if Jim Carrey can really bring it without makeup or like a hair gimmick like Ace Ventura. Essentially, I guess to boil it down, he wanted a role versus a character, as the challenge. I mean, he always loved Jimmy Stewart, Jim Carrey, so he always it was kind of like giving him a role, something tantamount to take a guy and put him in an extraordinary
This movie is
circumstance.
almost like Jim Carrey mixed with like Dick Van Dyke.
Well, yeah.
No, I'm sorry, not Jim Carrey. John Stewart. I'm sorry,
Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart. Yeah.
John Stewart's the either the Green Lantern or the talk show host.
Okay, right. My bad.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of that, sure.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so studio, I think they were considering like Steve Martin and Robin Williams for the role. But again, they ended up kind of Jim Carrey and Tom Shadyac were kind of proposed the project. And Jim Carrey actually turned down Doctor Evil and Austin Powers for this.
Oh man.
So he was offered this, and he decided, what? Again, I don't want to do like a big makeup reliant, kind of reliant role in this case, and I want to just show some
That was
range.
kind of like a mutual benefit because I can't imagine anyone but Mike Myers as Doctor Evil.
It still amuses me to know when the Doctor Evil is basically Mike Myers' impression of Lorne Michaels, which just cracks me up. Anyway, so basically, the way Tom Shadyac and Jim Carrey work together is that, so essentially, this movie didn't, like a lot of comedies, a lot of movies have many passes, many writers and stuff. So this is quite simple. Is they had the guys who brought the concept to the table, and then Jim Carrey and Tom Shadyac, they basically go through the whole script together, and they kind of punch it up and kind of massage out the jokes, and they get the timing down very much. They key in on timing, and basically what Jim Carrey calls the comedy chasm, what the two of them call the comedy chasm, which basically is like something on the page is not in. There's nothing indicating on the page this is funny, but having the faith that Jim Carrey will find a way to make this funny, somehow. Anyway, so they kind of do that. Then of course we throw in the traditional improvisations that Jim Carrey just has on the set, and that's pretty much how kind of the writing took shape on the second pass. It was a very draining performance for him because, as you can tell, this role required a lot of energy. He had, he is battered and bruised in some of these takes, but you don't see it. He is, literally in that one scene, he's actually getting hurt.
Right.
And to make things worse, to make things more difficult, they shot linearly, which again, they really wanted to kind of show the arc and just kind of put this guy through the ringer. So they shot it.
Mental deterioration.
Yeah, exactly. So they shot it very linearly.
Oh.
The guy already mentioned the editing thing with Shadyac. That's why this film is so economically paced.
It said like a smooth hour and 19 minutes before the credits roll, I think, something like that.
Yeah, about that. Like not counting 5 minutes of credits. Like at most, we're looking an hour and 20 minutes, approximately.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so John Debney did the score for this. Wonderful John Debney. Let's see. This is a benchmark for Jim Carrey in a sense that, again, it continued to let him write his own ticket, and again allowed us to get experimental with the stuff that came after, the stuff that we spent many an hour talking about with Man on the Moon.
All right.
Okay.
So yeah, just in regards to Carrey's performance, I think it's interesting, because I feel like this is kind of like a stepping stone between something like The Mask or Ace Ventura, where he is, by all intents and purposes, playing a live action cartoon character, and but this isn't like Truman Show or even Man on the Moon, where he's playing like a genuine like I could see this guy existing in the real world. Like I feel like he's definitely giving a performance, and he's definitely like I feel like he's more grounded than he has been in the past. But there's still that kind of like larger than life, like I mean, like the claw, for example, like it's adorable. I think the good thing that this movie strikes with the relationship with the kid is that, and the mother hits on it, is that when he's around, he's a great father. He's not just a good father. He's not just like attentive. He's awesome at it, but he's just not around. And I think having the claw and having like that be like, one of the times where we can kind of like really let Jim Carrey, the cartoon character, break loose. I think that's really smart, right? You get what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing, Tiki. So, Jim Carrey, like we saw in the Jim and Andy documentary, Jim Carrey does like to infuse a bit of himself in each role. It's whether intentional or not, it just kind of seeps in.
Uh-huh.
And with this, here are the kind of the real life parallels that you can draw here. I think one could argue that, like, around his big success in '94, he had been married and he had a kid, and he ended up getting divorced, from his first
Right,
wife.
right.
And that's the thing. I mean, presumably there's some layers here of this is the price of fame, or in the movie's case, this is Fletcher's price for being exceptional at his job, but being a grade A liar. Is that it kind of took him away from his family, and
And
again,
what is
fame.
acting but just lying professionally for a living,
Exactly.
right?
So that's the thing. So it's like putting everything into the performance, as well as just the price of fame, and putting everything and being top of your game. Is that you kind of
Mhm.
sacrifice family and probably away from them and that kind of stuff. However, again, like we demonstrate here, again, he's a great. One of the lines of the movie says, no, you're a good father when you show up. So as in,
Mhm.
like we see, he is a
Mhm.
great
I
father
feel
when he's
like that's
around.
almost like a good thesis for the whole movie and the whole plot.
Seriously, Jim Carrey, it's so underrated, the pathos. No one ever talks about the pathos in this film, I don't think. Where I love the realization on his face when he's at the point where he's compelled to tell the truth. He's just kind of like an inner truth comes out of, I'm a bad father, and just the
Yeah.
reaction on his
Yeah.
face, and just like, oh God, I've never thought of myself as a bad father, and just that
So
the
we
heart,
need
and he
to
knows it's true.
if we're gonna like I really want to kind of go a little linear.
Linearly.
Yeah.
You want to build to it.
Well, mostly just because Dragon, we've got to give proper respect to the pen is blue scene. All right.
Well, I'm well aware of that, Tiki.
So like I kind of want to like after we talk about the pen is blue scene, that we pretty much can have free reign to
Okay,
talk
real
about
quick,
any of the liar
let me can
stuff.
I talk about the claw? Then we can talk about the pen is blue.
Sure, sure.
Okay, I need to mention this about the claw. So the claw, again, another real life basis. Jim Carrey's father did the claw to him, and that's what he brought into the movie. So that's like yet another big kind of like again, that's the father that kind of grew up with. He's kind of again we've seen Jim Carrey's brought his father into a lot of the roles that he's played. The biggest
Mhm.
example being Stanley Ipkiss is kind of the soul of his father in terms of like the nice guy finishing last, a guy who
Mhm.
put people's happiness over his own, even at the cost of always kind of things not going well for him, sacrificing. I believe his father was in the music and he kind of sacrificed that. Anyway, so point being, the claw is just kind of a nice little kind of lovely gesture. It does show again he is really again. It's the playful side of Jim. I think the guy is playful, but what they
But like
call
I
it
said, I really appreciate the economy of like, basically in something like Ace Ventura, he would have been in like claw mode for like big chunks of that movie. But this movie, I feel like, I mean, obviously, once we get into the liar stuff, it's going to get a little bit more broad. But like, I feel like what this movie does well is that it kind of like contextualizes the broad comedy in a way that I don't think the earlier movies do as much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I like here it's kind of layered in tiers almost, where
Mhm.
there's a playful private side, which is good.
Cookie says Jim Carrey should play Dr. Claw. only if you don't see his face, but you just see his hand making the claw the whole movie.
God. All right, anyway, I think we do it kind of
Also,
in
how you
tiers
doing,
here.
Eli? Nice to have you on.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So I think we do it in tiers, where again he's like privately you have the wacky, just kind of like the honest kind of Jim Carrey performance, where he's wacky, but again it's just kind of like, okay, this is what he's kind of what the home life is like, when he can just be with the kid and is having a good time, and that is channeled through the what they nicknamed it the truth Tourette's. Basically, as truth Tourette's when when he's trying to suppress the truth, but it is coming out and there's just nothing stopping, or basically it's like it's suppressing the lie with the truth, and it's basically the third tier is kind of it's so basically it's letting the fun side out in a way that kind of suppresses the falsehood, and then basically that compiled with it's a man having his whole livelihood is just in complete deadlock with itself. It's in it can't, again, a lawyer cannot this very dishonest lawyer. It's like, what if Saul Goodman couldn't lie, or Saul
Well,
Goodman
I was going to say, Code Geass says, I wonder if Liar Liar will ever get a sequel. I don't think we need a sequel, but honestly, this is one of the few movies where I could see them doing a remake, and I think Odenkirk would be a shoo-in for a remake. Or do you think Odenkirk would be a little on the nose?
Look, I would love to see Odenkirk do it. I think Odenkirk would be smart enough. You know what? It would be. I don't think it'd be kind of a step backwards for him.
Wouldn't it be funny if Charlie Cox did it?
Oh my God, yes.
Just go full into like hammy broad comedy.
Look, I'd love to see that too, but I highly doubt Charlie Cox.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Anyway,
Right.
but yeah, you see what I mean though. It's kind of like it's there's like the man having a mental breakdown and not being able to do what he's best at, and just like everything going wrong, because he says he's in the seventh circle of hell, in the movie, and that's very much like this man is having the worst day of his life and also being confronted with his failures as a parent, and he just. Again, so it's like at a certain point but when we get to the big court scene, at that point his day has just gone so off the rails. It's less of just like a truth Tourette's, more of like the truth Tourette's is it's almost like the Michigan J Frog thing. Like the guy's just going off his rocker.
Right.
He's just like he can't verbalize the lie at all, and it's just dried him to the brink of madness.
All right.
Okay, yeah. So one of the best examples of this, of physicalizing this, is when you just try to do a simple test to see if he's just if he's crazy, if he actually can't lie. And that test is he sees a little blue pen, little felt blue tipped pen, and he just wants to write a lie. Not even say it. He wants to say it, and then when that doesn't work, he tries writing it. And what is that lie, Tiki?
The pen is red.
That's what he wants to say.
Dragon, I just want to say, like, this moment, this scene in particular really hooked me. It really kind of blew me away. I don't know. I just feel like there's just it does such a good job of setting up exactly what the parameters of the premise are. You know what I mean? And like exactly how far the premise goes. Like, it's such good illogical logic. It's really, really good, like, place setting as far as the rules go for this movie.
And it's great that there's no like magical explanation. All we need to know is the kid made a wish. We don't need to know anything like how the heck does a wish do that.
There's no Christopher Walken in the back of a Bed Bath and Beyond.
No, none of that. But yeah, it's a great simple thing, and that just like demonstrates plus of course Jim Carrey's physicality, again the human cartoon part of him just kind of comes out there. I love it's just still flawless to me, where his hand turns into a face when it like looks at him, like when it like then writes blue all over his face. It's hysterical. And I don't mean just like blue ink. I mean literally writing the word blue over and over again on his face in blue ink.
So I was so blown away by that scene, and I think that scene just kind of like embodies the movie so much that I literally just put the video description here. Just the pen is blue. I think people get it. I don't think people know what we're doing here.
Oh yeah.
All right. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that just really does a lot of heavy lifting for the actual premise and the audience buying into it. Do you want to set up the conflict with the wife and Carrie Elways?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Okay, so I want to mention this real quick. Here's a little fun fact for you and the kids out there. So the opening of the movie originally was different. Originally it opened with basically we saw him kind of in court, basically getting his violent client off for putting basically mugging an old guy in an ATM.
Oh God.
And also it's funny this
You just thought that was like a little too unlikable because that is kind of like like I said, that's the thread that this movie has to weave a little bit. So.
Well, that you're right. There is a balance, but by the same token, though, again, it's a pacing. Shadyac knows his pacing, and here
Right,
it's
right.
got. But here's the thing: they did cut some things because they were dark. Like for example, when he's right before Kenneth Falk gets introduced, who I like to think is kind of Ken mixed with Mel Gibson. That's what I like.
a little bit.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so before Mr. Falk shows up. So I love just kind of like the I think I'm convinced it's a subtle dirty joke, his name, by the way.
Oh God.
Like this guy, Ken Falk,
Oh man.
Regardless, but right before that scene, he was actually when he basically tried to lie and say what their legal strategy was, he was throwing up, but they cut that out because it was too grim. Like anyway. So they originally it was going to be Ed, and then Randall Tex Cobb, who was the guy from the top of Ace Ventura, the one who's like chasing the car and everything. He was his client, so it was kind of a callback to, hey, we brought back a cameo from Ace Ventura, and he's actually in the movie. Like he's the guy saying, hey, you want your coat back? No, keep it. You'll need it for next time. That's him from the opening scene. So he walked out from that opening scene, so they kind of kept it there. Anyway. So with the alternative opening is just Max, calling his dad a liar with the classic kid misconception, like again the false, again he got it wrong, but it's actually very true that his father is a liar. He's a lying lawyer, aka a liar.
It's like the teacher's like trying to correct him, but I think at the end of the day, Max he kind of knew what he was doing in that moment a little bit.
Well,
right?
that's the thing. He just kind of shrugs his shoulders, like well, I mean, he does lie.
Like if you say so, sure. Lawyer, tomato.
So with that,
Mike Ehrmantraut goes into the classroom and he's like, "Lawyer, your dad is a lawyer."
And then he goes off. He just pokes his head in like a mythical creature, just like a lawyer. No, son, your dad is a lawyer. Lawyer. Walks right out. But yeah, so point being, we see Fletcher, top of his game. Also I love this. I don't know if you noticed this cameo or not. Chris Darden from the actual O.J. Simpson trial. He's the one who says like, "Hey, how's it going, Fletcher?"
I am not locked into the O.J. stuff. Of course, I did not notice that.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
You remember how timely that was that when this came out? It was just kind of funny.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. I was just kind of a fun little Easter egg. Okay, regardless, so we're in kind of the Mrs. Doubtfire era. And how do we know it's the Mrs. Doubtfire? Well, we bring in Mrs. Sellner from Mrs. Doubtfire. That's Greta,
right.
So Anne Haney playing Greta, who I love, by the way.
She's
I love
a delight,
Greta.
though. She's a delight. I think she's even better in this movie than she
I know.
Doubtfire.
God, she is so fantastic in this. Anyway,
yeah.
I love. By the way, I love later on where she's kind of the moral center, and I love how she facilitates the arc. And we have this great moment where he's just so down in the dumps, saying, "My son hates me." She says, I've seen Max. He loves you." It's just it's so heartwarming. And then of course she's flipping him off by the end of the scene, but it's great. Anyways, okay. So the point being, Fletcher. At many points early in Act 1, we see Fletcher choose work over his son, which, again, that's the mountain to climb in terms of Fletcher's likability here, where presumably technically Audrey is credited with his last name, so that makes me think maybe it's a very deep separation before an actual divorce, because she knows, how am I going to divorce the lawyer? How is that even going to work out well for me? I don't know. But maybe they are divorced, maybe not. It sounds like they are. Regardless, they're on the outs.
My mom kept my dad's last name after she divorced him, so
well, then they're divorced. Let's go with that.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the simple thing to do, like.
Oh, I didn't know that was
frankly paperwork and stuff,
Frankly, I didn't know it was an option, but there you go.
Well, it was an option for my mother.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. So she's moved on to Jerry, played by Carrie Elways, who basically I always read Jerry as like the boring version of Fletcher.
a little bit
because he looks enough like, and apparently
he's making a noble enough attempt, but oh my god, Dragon, I think one of the things that really kind of like solidifies that, like, as well intentioned as he might be, he's not Fletcher, is when he tries to do the claw thing.
One of the funniest things in the movie.
It's just like, no, bro, no, you just do not have the sauce. I'm sorry.
Just the wet fish attempt at the the claw, and there's like I love it. Like he has no idea what the claw really looks like. It's just like the one finger, like the claw.
Right.
Anyway, but yeah, so I love too. Here's the thing: rewatching the movie, I never really picked up on this, but I kind of forgot about this. The whole semi-serious thing, where it's a bit of it's a gripe with the movie, but it's not a big gripe because we may acknowledge it in the movie that Audrey ultimately, I think she makes an irresponsible choice that she will move her kid to Boston. In essence,
I like that in the third act, she's already like, as she's like getting on the plane, she's realizing that it's a mistake before Fletcher even comes back into the picture,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like she kind of knew this, but again, ultimately it was kind of impulsive and out of spite. But it was, that's the thing. So Jerry, again, he's a nice guy, but it's a semi-serious for a reason. The guy he doesn't quite have the charisma or the charisma, as you might put it.
I feel like Harry Elway's I feel like this is not the only time that he's played a rival boyfriend who's actually pretty likable.
Oh yeah.
Can you remember other times that he's done that? Because I want to say this is not the only time he's I feel like it's almost kind of like a typecast for him at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure, because I keep thinking of all these other great Cary Elwes performances. I'm not quite thinking about one where he's the rival boyfriend. I'm thinking where he's like the romantic lead, in Princess
No, that's
Bride.
not what I'm thinking. Specifically, rival boyfriend. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Anyway,
anyone in the comments? Can you guys think of a role that he's done where he's rival boyfriend? Anyways.
All right. Okay, so Max and Fletcher, it's very cute seeing the bond between father and son here. Like, for example, he births the presents, for his birthday. That's awesome. And all the boy wants is to see his dad and play catch with him, and basically
he
call
just wants to play catch with his father. It's that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day.
I just love it's such a simple goal. He wants to play catch with his father and use baseball player names. I'm Jose
Canseco!
I love that bit so much. I love that it punctuates that very dramatic scene. I'm Jose Canseco! But yeah, it's just this. Again, I love that, we're identifying with the kid and just this complicates the relation. Us the audience, we now have a complicated relationship to Fletcher, and we absolutely back his need to change here because again he's breaking this poor kid's heart. And again, the big scene for me is when he's his the boss, basically he's trying to cozy up his way to be partner of the firm that he's at. So Miranda basically ends up sleeping with Miranda over even wishing his son a happy birthday over the phone.
Yeah, that for me is the most low as far as his parenting goes.
Exactly. That's. I think that's the worst thing he does. I think that might be the worst thing he does in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's the thing, though. You get a sense again, it wasn't like an intentional slight, but it definitely was a choice that he made. He doesn't see the wrong in what he did there until it's spelled out to him. So again, that's me is less. It's less irredeemable, more definitely. I think with all the stuff he goes through in the movie, it's karmic and it's earned, and he absolutely deserves what happens to him, and for the wrong that he's caused in Act One. We need that wrong so we can get him to the end point. We put him through. We break both of his legs by the end of the movie. I mean, I think he's suffered. Yeah, I think he's learned his lesson. Yeah, I don't know.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, to hijack the stair lift and he gets his legs broken.
Well, I love that as a climax, by the way, the hijacking the stair lift.
Best race to the airport you've ever seen.
It really is. I mean, it's freaking she got on the plane, eat your heart out.
I love that we even almost do kind of pull a Toy Story 2, where he basically, a few years before Toy Story 2, we kind of, the way we get into the baggage claim.
Mm-hmm.
Just cut to you'll never get to it in time. What you want to do is you seem with a big crazy smile on his face. He's clinging to luggage in the background. Anyway, but yeah, so basically Fletcher keeps breaking this poor kid's heart, and Audrey's she's been proposed to, and it's just rather suddenly she's been proposed to, and she's wondering, okay, there are some conveniences in the movie, and I don't think we're not too crazy with the contrivances, but I think they are notable, where it's it's Miranda. Sorry, for example, later on, Miranda overhears that he can't lie. She doesn't really question, oh, come on, really? But she just kind of goes with it, which, look, it brings us to a really funny roast scene, so I'll take it. all of the move happening essentially in a day and a half or one day. That's a bit of
That
a
is a
stretch.
buy. That is definitely
That's
some
the
like, movie script BS right there. Yeah.
that to me is the biggest stretch of the movie, that we're just going to move in one day.
It's basically just like, okay, audience, just don't think about it. Just don't think about it. It's fine. It's fine. That
Well, I mean, the
you
kid
know
goes to
that that's not
school.
how moving really works, but just don't think about it, or else we're not going to have a movie.
Exactly. At least Toy Story had moving boxes. You know, at least we
Right,
established.
right.
And of course, the other thing too, this one I can excuse more. The bit there's a lot of back and forth between the courthouse, and there's a reason for that. See, the reason is court-based comedies are very difficult because they can get boring really fast. It's really hard. Like, if, for example, if the whole movie took place in the courthouse and was a comedy, I don't think that would end well for them. I think they knew that, and that's why, okay, we got to go back and forth, and that's why we set the trial. We kind of we check. We have to leave the courthouse to check in with the kid, and to, that's why we have the car scene. Why the speeding ticket scene. So we got to get him out of that courthouse. So basically, the biggest gamble in the movie is that the 10 to 20 minutes in the actual court are not going to drag and not going to bore the audience.
And I don't think they do. I think they make for a
No.
really good climax, actually.
And again, really good.
I think it makes sense that this movie's climax is a big court case.
Oh yeah.
A big court case where, as we build up to, he physically cannot lie.
Nope. All right, let's see. So again, also again, in building up to we already covered the blue pen, but also I like that in building up to that, we already kind of knew at this point what the deal was, because we, the audience, have seen the kid made a wish, and he's suddenly telling the truth compared to all the lies that we've seen him tell very effortlessly, like the lady with like Sherry O'Terry with the really weird, 90s hairstyle.
I do really like how when he goes through the office, he basically does like a speed run of lying to literally everyone that he comes upon. It's a very efficient way to establish just how dishonest he is.
I like the underlying moral, by the way, of he's not lying to be cruel. He's gonna lie. He's lying to be kind of charming and move up in a way. It's like not swarmy, but
if I were to look at it and I know that this movie is definitely not intended to be viewed through this lens, but like, if I were to look at it through like an autism lens, Dragon, I do think there's something to say about the idea of like, you do want to cushion the blow, right? That's the thing, like, I mean, for example, like a good example for me is like relating to autism is I have a really hard time if someone asks me like how I'm doing to not basically just be like, oh, I've been in the third corner of hell. How about you? Like, I have a really hard time like self-censoring myself. And frankly, when I'm having a bad day and someone asks me that question, I genuinely don't know how to respond. So like, I do think there's like some cathartic entertainment to be had from the whole like being forced to tell the truth in these sorts of situations, and seeing how that would play out.
Yeah. Yeah, but like it's not out of malice that he's lying. However, we don't glorify it because again, the lies towards his kid, ultimately the choices, it's in more choice than lie, but still like a lie about the choice. That's a really hard. So that's like our punch of like, no, we're not glorifying the lies, but we're definitely seeing that again. There are different forms of lies. There's like the lies that hurt people's feelings and the lies that kind of they're pleasant. They're kind of lies of pleasantries, one could say.
Okay, Kogias, I don't think we're ever going to see She-Hulk versus Jim Carrey's liar character in a court case, but that would be funny. I'm not going to lie, that would be amusing. I could see that maybe being like an epic rap battle of history, something like that. Yeah, like Saul Goodman versus She-Hulk versus Jim Carrey and Liar.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Saul Goodman versus She-Hulk would be...
All right,
let's see. So I want to talk about just the timing and the rhythm, Steve. What did you feel? Do you like just the humor overall? I mean, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that the movie does a really good job. Like, basically, like the first act is kind of just like building up to the actual like wish, and it's kind of like establishing like why we care about this guy, why we care about his bond with his kid, but also why he's a little bit skeezy and how he obviously has an issue with lying. And then, act 2 is kind of like all the broad comedy, the figuring out what he's going to do and kind of navigating the parameters of the rules. And then Act 3 is basically the big court case and all the big kind of like more dramatic, like pathos based stuff. So yeah, I think just throughout, like all throughout, I definitely think it's a very well constructed piece for sure.
And again, just with her demonstrating, again, like the lady on the elevator gag.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my favorite early ones was I love
By
how
the way, I really like the blooper that we get in the credits involving her.
God, it's just really funny that the doors close. Sugar Ray Leonard thing, that's funny.
Yes. She had a really good attitude about it too, which I
absolutely. Yeah. All right, I think one of my favorites was these ones. This is like the real true to life one. I've always kind of wanted to say this one. It's just I love how he calls out the bomb.
Yeah, totally.
But it's such a great line that he has too, because I just want to go from my car to work and not be reminded of the moral decay of Western society, and I'm cheap.
And I'm cheap.
Just so funny. All right, let's see. Oh, okay. Also, the other thing too, we were highlighting Jim Carrey. We also got to highlight again what makes the comedy work in this is also the reactions to the insanity. So Swoozie Kurtz, who plays plays I'm trying to get my legal terms down here because again I'm thinking criminal case. This is a civil case, so I guess the right. The point being, Mr. Cole's representative.
Yeah.
Mr. Cole's attorney. Swoozie Kurtz. So basically, they're discussing like a plea, or not a plea. They're discussing like a settlement. Like can they, basically can they settle that? They settle this before actually going to trial? And which is a thing always. Now this is realistic. This would happen right before the case starts. With any case, criminal or otherwise, you can offer like a plea or a settlement to be agreed upon, so they can just avoid like going through the motions. It can be down to the last minute. Anyway, so I just love it goes from a reaction of just puzzlement to disgust to almost pity when he does like I call it the Stella thing, where he basically puts his fingers in his mouth and he kind of flips them over. We see the teeth like Stella. It's so. I just love like the reaction where it's like, what am I watching? What is he doing? Like, you gotta imagine the biggest challenge on this movie for those people in that courtroom are for them not to laugh. That is the biggest challenge.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. And honestly, that's one of the things that I've thought about that a lot. Like if I was an extra on a movie like this, like I would not be good at keeping the straight face. I just know I wouldn't be.
Oh yeah. Oh boy, so that's the thing. So he's screwed 8 ways to Sunday on this one here, where his Jennifer Tilly plays Samantha Cole. So of course Jennifer Tilly, fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I think she's great. I think this is a really good role for her. She's, very unhinged, antagonistic. I think Jennifer Tilly, honestly, kind of like works best when she is a little antagonistic.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at all the Chucky stuff that she's done.
Of course.
Yeah.
Also, dragging kind of fun connection here. One of the movies that I really associate with kind of taking the whole the father is a workaholic who's too busy for his kids is the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion, which Jennifer Tilly is also in.
Right. So,
yeah,
I'm gonna raise you one more.
Okay.
Tom Shadyac also did the Eddie Murphy Nutty Professor movie, the first one.
Is that a too busy for his? I saw it once. It's been a while though. Is there a too busy for his kids element?
No, I just wanted to say, the director of this movie also did the Eddie Murphy movie. That's all.
Right.
Big connection.
Yeah, doing a little like connection tree there. All right.
It's the degrees of separation. I'm just saying.
No.
Okay. Anyway, so the point being, we have this multi-million-dollar case in which basically, it's a prenup violation. That's essentially, again, I love that. I love the comedy storm here, where because he talked her up, because he's trying to make partners, trying to impress the bosses. He wants in on this case. He talks up, he talks Cole up into like a greedy lawyer into, sue him for everything is worth, don't settle.
Mm-hmm.
And now because of that, it's the perfect comedy storm where it's like one day for 24 hours, the day in which he has this case that it was supposed to be settled, he cannot get out of it. And again, she's guilty as sin because she's had like 7 affairs, and one of them was caught on tape and has been entered into evidence.
Right, right.
It's just hysterical. He is so screwed, much like she was. He's so screwed. Anyway, okay, so let's see. Oh, also just leaving the little gags too. For example, we have the rare fart joke that actually works.
Yeah, yeah.
It was me.
That was fun. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So, okay, just real quick because I really appreciate this. The speeding ticket joke still it's really funny, but also I still can't help but think of the Family Guy joke every time I see that speeding ticket joke. Now the whole Carter Peterschmidt saying, "Look, I'll fund your book if you if you do a scene by scene remake of Liar Liar," and he does.
Oh my god! Right.
Oh, God. But the speeding ticket scene's like one of those relatable scenes where it's always like the pressure of like if you did get pulled over by the cop and they play the mind games. Okay, why don't you tell me what you did wrong? And like him being in a position where, oh guys, it's going to be the anxiety based panic of he's going to say everything because now he can't.
Well, I mean, as we already established, like it's not just that he has to answer everything truthfully. It's like he has to say everything. He can't just say one thing. We've already kind of established that within the rules.
Yeah, because he's saying all the things that he definitely would lie about.
Right.
Oh yes, again, all of our dominoes just kind of falling here because he has the speeding tickets. He loses the car. His wife.
Can we just acknowledge this is like at least the second time that a Jim Carrey movie has a low of lows involving him getting arrested?
Yeah, no,
I feel like it's a thing for him. I feel like it's a running motif in his films.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. No, I'm saying you're right. We have the lows where he's well, it's kind of held in contempt, but it's similar. And it's kind of a mixture. It's kind of half and half. Well, he ends up in a cell, and he gets stopped by a cop. He doesn't get arrested, but he does.
All I care about is that he ends up in a cell, Dragon. That's all I care about for the purposes of this.
Yeah, no, sure, yeah. I mean, it's definitely definitely a kind of run of that in the mask, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably at least one more too. We'll have to keep an eye on it.
Well, I mean, I love you, Philip Morris. The whole premise is he's in prison, so I mean, I guess that's
there. You go. Yeah. And then, of course, another one that I always think of in regards to that weirdly specific trope is the cinematic masterpiece that is the Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas.
Yeah?
Yeah, also ends with a low of Fred and Barney in jail.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then the cinematic opus of the Super Mario Brothers live-action movie as well.
Yep.
Anyways.
Oh, it was popular in the 90s, Tiki.
Weirdly specific tropes, right?
Yep. Let's see, so I love we go to the impound lot, and again, he just calls out he just rants on the guy who scratched his car, and it just says, "No, I'm just gonna piss and moan, and I'm not gonna do anything about it." It's just like, you've been here before. This is what I'm saying, like the reaction of just like, okay, so like that's the unwashed kind of guy who just scratched his car unapologetically. Yep, this is the reality. Yep, you've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we hit the pathos with "I'm a Bad Father," as we kind of already mentioned. As the reaction on his face, heart of the movie, it strengthens his arc. It throws in his face the truth.
And I feel like that reaction is like definitely one of the first like on-film moments with Jim Carrey where, you can really see like he can go places dramatically. It's not just being the live-action cartoon character. Like he really can throw himself into the drama of a moment.
Tiki, I don't know if it's me. I like to think other people would kind of get on board with this, but I tell you, man, I love it when we have a comedic actor go to a dramatic place. Not just the obvious being, we've seen Robin Williams do it 8 Ways to Sunday. I know that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like the Tim Allens of the world, the Jim Carreys, just see him be able to go those places while being like these Bob Odenkirk, for example, again, built a whole show on it. It's the idea of we have these people that are really funny, but we can, get such, get really great moments of drama from them.
I wonder how Bill Burr would do in a serious dramatic role.
Well, Tiki, think about it. We've kind of seen that a couple times.
Yeah, with Breaking Bad, I mean, he was such a
no. I mean, even think about this. I mean, Mando, we had like the undercover episode where he had that great dramatic scene.
In what now?
Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, he did have a really good dramatic scene in Mando. That's a good point. Yeah.
So I'm just saying he's had his moments, but also I haven't watched the movie, but we did have that the King of Staten Island. I think he had a somewhat dramatic role in that.
Yeah, I did see that. I don't remember him being like very standout there, but I think you're right. That whole movie was kind of like very much dramedy coded. I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think he plays the mom's boyfriend in that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, no, that's right.
So yeah, he probably has some level of pathos in that movie,
But
sure.
no, you're not wrong though. I mean, it would be something I would be eager to see, like from kind of from the get go with them.
Or even like a prestige show starring him.
Sure. I mean, also, I mean, here's another thing too. I mean, F is for Family had moments of like,
That's true.
obviously
No,
playing.
F is for Family definitely had some dramatic moments. That's true.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I live for the dramatic moments with our comedic actors, and something we
Uh-huh.
get again. It's like I think they hit upon it in the Albuquerque verse, where again, some of the best dramatic actors are the comedians, and vice versa. Some of the
I
best.
mean, even fucking Mulaney as Spider Pig had some pathos to him in some moments.
Yep,
Honest to God.
that's true.
Spider Pig had one of the most heart emotional lines in the whole movie, dude.
We've all lost someone.
Oh my God. Teddy, yeah, he's in the comments saying Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler have weirdly similar careers. Yeah, Adam Sandler, man. I mean, I don't think Dragon really vibes with Adam Sandler like dramatic roles the same way that I do, but like stuff like Punch Drunk Love. Punch Drunk Love is my absolute favorite Adam Sandler performance, like hands down, and it's also my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Dragon doesn't vibe with Uncut Gems, but I think Uncut Gems is pretty thrilling.
Oddly enough, though, I love the dramatic stuff he does in Click. I think it's fantastic.
Which I fucking hate. That's literally one of my least favorite Adam Sandler movies.
I didn't
Tone
say
is
the
everything. Tone is everything in that movie, Dragon. Tone is everything in that movie.
But in a vacuum, if you just
in a vacuum,
cut...
it's some good dramatic work, sure, but the tonal whiplash is what throws
I
me
know
off.
it's tonal whiplash. I understand it's tonal. I'm just saying, if you literally cut out all the dramatic scenes, just present that's an amazing movie.
Bill Burr is different because I really don't think he cares as much about the acting part of his career. I like to think he's just go like, okay, no more stand up. I'm doing the movies now. I don't think he'll ever get away from stand up. I agree with you there, but I don't know. I'd like to think a part of Bill Burr would be curious to see how far he could push the acting stuff.
Well, it's recent. I could have sworn. I think he was doing like a play recently, or he's working on something. He's doing like a stage show. I don't know if I think it's Glengarry. I think it's Glenn Ross.
You could be right.
So that's a big leap for him. So never say never.
Yeah. Coke, yes, I have not seen Spanglish. I should, because that is like one of the early like dramatic Adam Sandler roles. Anyways, back to this.
Okay. So, again, we have like the credo of the movie, which is you're not a bad father when you show up.
Mm-hmm.
So he visits Max at school again with an ulterior motive. He desperately wants the kid to make a wish so he can undo the wish. But again, I love that he's like answering the kids' questions honestly. Like, well, if I make this face, will it freeze like this? Like, no, actually, some people make a really good living doing that, which is a cute meta reference. Yeah, to him being the rubber face kind of.
Yeah, it's fun.
Anyway, okay, so again, it really hits home that the kid. The kid just really doesn't want his father to lie because he doesn't mean it. He doesn't mean the wish because he doesn't want his father to lie to him because of how it makes him feel. And again, I love the sad moment of like where he's kind of defeated that the plan didn't work, and also he's just reminded of how much of a just how much he's disappointed his son. I love he smashes the cake with the hands. So his eyes are starting to become open again. From a plot standpoint, again, we're really hitting our marks here. Where his eyes are open to how sad his lies have made his son. And again, I love the scene between Fletcher and Greta, where again, as I said before, my son hates me, and she comforts him, and then it just goes to this hysterical. It's heartbreaking and hilarious at the same time. Where like, oh no, Fletcher, don't. We see how horrible he's been to Greta.
Mm-hmm.
And Greta justifiably calls him out and quits, and he's without his awesome kind of supporting character here, and now he's on his own. He ends up roasting the partners committee, and I love how this scene plays out.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, just well, it's kind of like it's
because
like
it's just basically like the like the perfect setting to be like, okay, I'm just gonna, this is working weirdly well, and I'm just gonna take advantage of it and roll with it, I guess.
it's like it's kind of seeding in the solution to his problem here
It
in a
is a
way,
little
where it's
bit,
like
yeah.
using the truth as a tool instead of a hindrance, where
Right, right.
it ultimately got him more respect. The honesty got him more respect than the lies and butt kissing has.
Mhm.
But again, it's only going to go so far when he goes fully noble, because lawyers do love money. Okay, so the courtroom. Tiki, we gotta shout this out. So Jason Bernard plays Judge Stevens. He plays the judge in this
Yeah.
scene, in this whole, in the whole movie. This was his final, where he died after they shot the last scene, and it was a heck of a performance. I thought the judge was really good in this movie. I'm not just saying that. I've always felt like the judge was a really good counterpoint to the comp. Again, you
Well,
need a
what I
good
like
straight.
about the judge is that he's no nonsense, but he's not like a caricature of a no nonsense judge. Like he seems like a fully fleshed out person in the
Yeah,
limited screen time that he does get.
yeah. That was really always really impressed me, is that he felt fleshed out. He just felt like
Right.
he
No, I
gave him a
felt
lot.
that.
Because judges do give, even if lawyers have unusual or really out there strategy, sometimes out of curiosity they will give them some rope and see where it leads. So there's a somewhat believable, even though again this is like a very exaggerated case of like, hey, like a guy literally was, you stuffed her like a turkey, didn't you? And they're making the gobbling. So it's. But still, though, I love that he's like moments. I think the funniest moment one of the funniest moments in the whole movie is when he badgers, Ken Falk, and it says he's badgering Swoozy Kurt says, he's badgering the witness. It's his witness. He shrugs and he says, it's his witness. He can't,
Right, right.
he can't call him out on it. That's hysterical to me. Just the fact that the judge is party to the insanity, but he brings respect. Again, in the movie where you need the ground Jim Carrey, this guy is so pivotal in what you need to do, especially in the most important sequence in the movie. So he nails everything he needs to do. He's the perfect contrast. And also, little light, the whole like bathroom thing, the whole like Your Honor, may I use the bathroom? This is like, well, can it wait? Yes, it can, but I hear it's bad for the prostate. I says, is that true? Well, it has to be.
I love that. That actually got one of the biggest laughs of the whole movie from me. The whole just the desperation in his voice, just like, you don't understand, but I physically that absolutely has to be true. There's no way it's not.
All right, so the famous well, not infamous, but just the famous bathroom fight scene. So Jim Carrey just
Yes. Oh my god. I mean, just like this is like really, I do like how throughout the movie we kind of like ebb and flow with like Jim Carrey as cartoon character, but this is really kind of like the height of it. But again, it's like we unleash it for all the best like plot related reasons. Like he's very much at the end of his rope. This is like the only thing that he thinks he can do. Dragon, I have to wonder that famous. I don't think this is really the case. I'd be surprised if it was really the case, but don't you get a little bit of a vibe that like that famous moment in Breaking Bad where Walt punches the mirror in the bathroom? Like,
yeah.
there's a little bit of a shade of this scene in there, right? Just a little bit.
Tiki, I really wish I could say yes to that, but I don't.
Look, I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying they were actually inspired by it, but I'm just saying, there is a little bit of a similar feeling, just as far as like the absurdity goes. It's just obviously Breaking Bad kind of plays it a little bit more straight, But
Well, again, I'd like to think that I can't wrap my mind around it, but I respect the idea that maybe that could have been.
oh
I
god,
know you're not.
there's also. Have you seen Punch Drunk Love?
Yeah, but only once.
Okay, there's a moment where where Adam Sandler like he makes like some sort of comment on the date that doesn't really land well, and he literally goes into the bathroom and just fucking goes nuts on like just beats up the whole bathroom.
I
Like,
remember that.
yeah, and then the waiter comes up like, and he's like, "Sir, the bathroom is trash, sir." He's like, "Well, I don't know. I didn't do that, sir. We're gonna have to ask you to leave, sir." Well, no, don't do this to me. Don't fucking do this to me. Oh man, classic. Anyways,
Anyway, yeah. So again, so Jim Carrey really, again, this is pretty much improvised fight against himself. It's like probably written in the script. Like Fletcher beats himself up in the bathroom, and everything Jim Carrey does here, this is like he's actually kind of getting hurt in this scene, which is really brutal. I mean, they're adding like they're barely even adding sound effects. You hear when his head hits the floor. That's actually his head hitting the floor, and like the toilet seat and everything. That's really hitting him.
Right.
Anyway, of course, the reaction of the guy, like, what are you doing? Oh, God, this is really funny. Anyway, what cracks me up more than the fight scene itself, just the absurdity of the fight scene, is just the truth, the way weaponized the truth actually works. Is the whole rerun. Why the heck is he beating himself? Is it just purely out of frustration? Well, kind of, but really, it's he needs to get a continuance on this case like there's no tomorrow. So he's beating himself up, makes it look like he's been like he's been mugged or something in the bathroom. I just love it. Like
would you consider this to be the matchstick moment?
I mean, kind of, yeah. This is yeah.
He goes through all this effort. He goes through all this effort to get the case moved up. But the second that the judge asked, like, unless you think you can still go through with it, like. And it's like, as soon as he asked that, it's like we have all like the film has done such a good job establishing the rules. It's like we know, like no, it's over. It's fucking over. Like he is going up there.
I still love just the lead up where it says like, "Who did this? Can you describe the man who did this to you?" A madman, Your Honor. A fool at the end of his pitiful rope.
Right.
He's about 6'2", kind of big teeth, kind of gangly.
Like gangly, yeah.
Serious, I just want just fantastic. Anyway, so I guess it's like we've kind of gone over again. The trial happens, against badgering the witness, and also object again. I love that we're not getting stale with the scene. It's not all sound effects. It's not all just like the truth Tourette's. It's like it's reinventing itself with these badgering his own witness and. Him objecting to himself, I still think is really funny. Is the I object, Your Honor, to yourself. Anyway, so now here's something. Here's a fun fact for you. So the legal solution that he does come up with, he looks into, actually legally viable. So one of the original writers, they called the original writers, Steve Mazur, who's actually a lawyer, and they double checked this, and this is an actual way they can get out. Again, they basically made the prenup null and void with the age thing. So that's actually viable. Nice. All right, so to me, again, I know we talked a lot about the movie, but this is like a lot of the great comedy highlights in the movie. So to me, the moment no one ever talks about Liar Liar, the standout moment of all the pathos in this movie, that's still just is the main reason I want to talk about this movie. He wins the case against all odds. He wins the case. And he sees the damage that he's wrought upon poor Mr. Cole, who's now because he gave her like the greedy bug.
No, I'm actually really glad you're bringing this up because I feel like all the stuff with the son is it does a decent enough job of tugging at your heartstrings, but I think this is really where it's like, oh man, like no, this is not a good situation at all, and it's directly his fault.
Because I swear, people will think I'm crazy, but I tell you, man, when we always think of the great dramatic Jim Carrey moments, Jim Carrey roles, I know there's a lot of great contenders in it, but because of that, everyone always glazes over like this one scene from Liar Liar, which I think I will attest might have been like the first really big dramatic kind of like.
We already established there's like the whole like I'm a terrible father thing is up there too, but like this is even more so. Like I feel like I'm a terrible father is probably more memorable because it's like more of what the plot hinges on. But no, I agree that as far as just like an elongated moment of him just like kind of just sitting in the in the mess that he made and just like kind of coming to terms with his responsibility in the whole thing, it definitely hits. I agree.
And I think that because you always like to go on about the tone, Teague. I think this is a nice shift between the tones. Like,
I think this movie honestly handles tones in a way that like Click fucking wishes it could.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest about that.
No, I'm with you there. So that's the thing. So he sees the damage.
I believe this movie came out before the Truman Show, Teddy. I believe so.
Yeah, no, it did. It's before Truman Show. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this is what gets us the Truman Show, Teddy. That's the whole point. So it's because again, this is kind of like the thing that gives him like, hey, maybe we can give him something dramatic.
Right.
Anyway, so he sees the damage that he's wrought, where now she's like, like you have some checks to write, you can pay for them, and it's this horrible thing. John Debney's score, I think, is just immaculate in this scene, coupled with Jim Carrey's performance, where you just have this wonderful, soulful kind of moment where he just sees like, oh God, plus it's a parenthood thing where he just kind of sees everything that he's done. He sees actually a really good father. Who's actually, he's going to do whatever it takes for his kids, despite, they get in court and everything, getting in the way and all that. Mm-hmm. And he just, again, the performance between him and, again, the last performance, again, being shot linearly. This is the last great moment of Jason Bernard here. Just this moment of, he nobly stands up to the judge, and again, like the desperation of just like, Your Honor, I'm sorry, before that, I love the disgusted handshake with Mr. Allen, the boss. I love kids. They provide such great leverage, and the way he pulls away, he's got everything he wants, and he pulls away, and he's so disgusted with himself. He appeals to the judge, and the judge is like, again, so dignified. He's like, young man, I am tired. This is like, look, again, very truthfully, he's just laying it out that I manipulated the system. It's kind of like Saul Goodman doing that job interview, from for Neff Copiers, where he's just like, I could be a serial killer that pees in your coffee. That's kind of... Anyway, just just like manipulated the system. It's just because you bought it doesn't mean I'm right. And just says, I will hold you in contempt. I will not have my own judgment mocked in my courtroom against things that are really serious. And just, I hold myself in contempt. Why should
that line is honestly like, that line should be like an iconic courtroom line in the same way that You Can't Handle the Truth is, honestly.
It's the big three, Tiki. Think about it. You can't handle the truth. You got you're out of order. There, all systems out of order. And I hold no, you're right. This one does not get that praise, but it should. I hold myself in contempt.
That, I think, is the most Jimmy Stewart moment of the whole movie, honestly.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's your big, Anyway, so then of course he's taken away, and just again the worst timing, because again he only has like a short window of time to convince the boss that his son is going to be literally flown away from him, like, I'm Jose Canseco. So then we have our race to the airport finale, which again, best race to the airport finale you'll ever find.
I really like. I think it's charming how it's like, there's obviously some shots where there's a stuntman involved. There's obviously some shots where Jim Carrey is like standing on the stairwell against a green screen, but it doesn't matter. It's Hollywood magic, baby.
Well, Tiki, what's funny?
They don't make them like they used to.
You know what's funny about that?
What?
He's only on the green screen when you look through the window.
yeah, right.
Seriously, though, that's the thing. He's impressively. He's actually on a lot. He's on that stair thing. It's actually traveling. Mind you, I'm
sure there's got to be some stunt work involved here. There's got
no. There is. I'm just saying, like, for example, he gets flung off the thing. Clearly, it's not
right. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, him driving on that thing, and mind you, the plane is not like going at high speeds, but still, like, he is like that stair thing is. The stair lift thing is moving, and
honest to God, Dragon, it's low key like a Mission Impossible set piece.
See, that's what Tom Cruise needs to try next when they run out of ideas. Like, on a stair lift, he's gonna jump onto the plane.
Yes. Well, Dragon, it's just like, oh God, what did we see recently where it was like, oh shoot. Oh no, okay, Dragon. There's a really great gag in The Day the Earth Blew Up involving like a gag involving trying to get somebody onto the plane. Like, on the runway in this kind of fashion, and Porky and Daffy are just like, just jump! You've got this! But anyways, I'm sorry, you do not. You need to see that movie. Anyways, obviously.
I believe me, I do. I know. Whether I will be able to or not.
It's all up to what streaming service the thing lands on.
I know when it comes out on DVD, but still, it's anyway. All right. Point being, he catches up. He's gonna see. He prevents the plane from taking off because a madman has hijacked the stair lift. So then, of course, he gets flung off there. We break both of his legs. It's And I love there's this really fun cameo of Fire Marshal Bill in the background. Did you catch it?
No, I did not.
Well, it's really great when they're all gathered around him. You'll notice like over like the Carrie Elway's shoulder, you see like Fire Marshal Bill in the background, like with the emergency workers.
Am I supposed to know who Fire Marshal Bill is?
Oh, that makes me sad.
Tell me, I'm sorry.
In Living Color, his first character, it's...
Oh, okay. No, I mean, I have never watched In Living Color. I don't think I've ever seen a single sketch of In Living Color. So yeah.
Oh well, okay. Well, anyway.
My bad.
Oh, really funny. That was the beginning.
Cable Guy is underrated, Teddy. I agree. I just watched Cable Guy for the first time this year, a few months ago, I think.
All right, so we have the apology and the aftermath here. He went through it, man. He went through it. He's been arrested. His legs are broken. He's going to face some ramifications. A year goes by, so he's probably faced some ramifications. He probably had a really good plea deal, I'm sure.
Right.
But yeah, it's again, it's a heartwarming thing where it says, it doesn't matter how bad his body's hurt, it's really his heart's hurt by the possibility of never seeing his son again. It's like kind of a thing where the parent doesn't realize how good they had until it's gone, kind of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a nice, kind of like a thing, even though he can't lie anymore. He is a little spelled out, maybe, but I don't know. I think the movie earned it by that point. It's kind of a we don't care kind of moment,
Yeah, I think it was fine.
So the ending, Jim Carrey actually pitched the ending, which we restore the family unit at the end. How do you feel about that?
I feel like if this movie was done now, it wouldn't have been like so cut and dry, like wrapped up with a bow. But I think for like a 90s feel good like movie that kind of like harkens back to the Jimmy Stewart days, I think it works. I think it fits with the tone and the vibe of the movie. I don't have any problems with it.
I'm with you. I do wonder if maybe, I don't know how much of it might be Jim Carrey, since he did come up with the ending. I wonder how much of that is him projecting like how you kind of wished life would work out, where it's like, clearly we don't want the father and son to be really split up any more than they already are. You want to show that he's grown. You want to put a really happy ending on it. Show, okay, well, they're a lot more civil with each other. Maybe they're going to get back together. It's like how life could work out in a best case scenario. And the point being, it kind of, I don't know, restores a sense of normalcy. Again, for example, had Mrs. Doubtfire ended this way, it would have been completely inauthentic to that movie,
Because I think Mrs. Doubtfire plays the whole divorce thing a lot more straight than this one does.
Exactly. So it's kind of nice to shake it up.
Like honestly, like how her and Carrie Elways are like serious-ish. I feel like the vibe with her and Jim Carrey is they're divorced-ish. I feel like it's that same sort of vibe. Yeah. Whereas Doubtfire, it's like no, the divorce is like the thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. And of course, we end on the claw as we should.
Indeed. And,
also some very fun bloopers.
Yes. One final thing that Teddy is dying to get us to answer. Bruce Almighty or Liar Liar?
They're both great, but gun to my head, Liar Liar.
I've only seen Bruce Almighty the one time in theaters when it came out, so I'm due for a rewatch on that, but I think Bruce Almighty has had some cultural like staying power, but I think Liar Liar is just like a stone cold like Liar Liar has to be on the Mount Rushmore of Jim Carrey movies, whereas I don't necessarily think Bruce Almighty would make the cut for that. So
I'm just saying it's a real. You got to remember these are made by the same guy. We have they're very strong movies. They're very funny. It's a very close race. But Liar Liar, I think has more say. I
very
think
much
Liar,
both very much have like the the high concept premises that get explored in really fun ways.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just something kind of more clean.
Pathos. Bruce Almighty, of course, has the pathos with like, oh my god, I can't answer all these people's prayers. What do I do?
I mean, Bruce Almighty is contending with trying not to be preachy, despite him literally being God. That's a challenge.
Exactly.
So
I will say, Evan Almighty, just no.
That's something else, though. It's a whole nother.
Code Geass is trying to defend Evan Almighty, and just no.
No, there's no defense for Evan Almighty. All right, just no.
Right. Teddy says, I feel like these kind of comedic actors aren't a thing anymore. Actors like Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, it is kind of a bygone era.
I mean, I think we still have some. I think Paul Rudd kind of fits that mold. I think Will Poulter, though he doesn't exclusively do comedies, every time he pops up, he's kind of like the most funny thing in any given movie that he's in, besides maybe Guardians 3, but that's kind of a different thing. I mean, you're not wrong. I don't necessarily think we have like a big like superstar comedic actor in the same way like a Will Ferrell was, for example, in the 2000s. Yeah. But I think they're still out there. I just don't think it's as prominent. And a lot of the times, honestly, the big comedic actors kind of get on TV too. But I don't know. You're right. There definitely has been kind of like a shift. Like, like for example, I'm thinking like Zach Cherry on Severance. Like his character very much starts out as like the comic relief role, but I think by the end of the second season, frankly, he becomes one of the most tragic characters in that show. So it's like I do think that the tide is kind of shifting for like, if you are known for comedy, like you almost kind of have to branch out, like in Zach Cherry's case. Like,
well, even so, we
could have just been like the do a flip Spider-Man. Like that could have been him his whole career, if he hadn't branched out into dramatic stuff with Succession.
Even so, Tiki, even if we do have any like just funny people that we see in recurring things, it's like just with the way the medium is now, it's like they don't do the movies anymore. It's all streaming shows.
Right,
if we do get like the Jason Sudeikis of the world, it's usually shows. It's Charlie Day.
I think I would stand by Paul Rudd. I think is probably the closest thing we have to like.
I think there's only one
actor who's still can draw like, like a comedic actor who's known mostly for comedy. He doesn't really branch out all that much into big dramatic stuff, but he can land a comedy really well. I think that's Paul Rudd, honestly.
There's only two I can think of, and Teddy makes a good example here. He says Seth Rogen, but unfortunately Seth Rogen's kind of like things are kind of cooled down.
Seth Rogen's kind of part of that old guard though. Like he's not necessarily a new talent. I mean, I agree that he's still got it, but again, even he's doing like the streaming stuff.
So here's the one I would actually say.
Jack Black. Oh God, that's a whole can of worms.
Okay, so here's the one I would actually back. I think you can make a good case for. Kevin Hart is probably the best example we have. Just like I'm saying in terms of like an act. Mind you, he's a little too brandy.
He's not a good actor, but like just as far as like being able to carry a comedy.
I'm just saying in terms of like having an actor's like sold on. Here's a funny guy we have a movie and possibly leading his own movies, but the only problem is Kevin Hart's bankrolling his own movies. So that doesn't count.
Right.
That's the thing though. It's a thing of like it's like okay,
like people like Dwayne Johnson, where it's like their movies are never really outright comedies, but comedy is always kind of like a fixture of his deliveries to a certain extent. So that's kind of a little bit of a gray area.
Yeah.
I feel like Anthony Ramos is a character actor where he can do a really good like lead comedic role, but he can also do stuff that's a little bit more dramatic, like In the Heights. So I don't know. I still think Paul Rudd is about the purest form of what we're kind of talking about.
Yeah, but he's not getting starring things anymore, Tiki.
He is the lead technically in Death of a Unicorn. I just don't think Death of a Unicorn used him that well.
It's a shame we can't say like Bill Hader, but he's
I know. I love me some Bill Hader. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see what he does next. But yeah, movies ain't it right now.
Yeah. Oh well.
Anyways, so this was kind of an illuminating conversation on the state of comedy. Any final thoughts, Dragon?
Again, I adore Liar Liar. I think it's a truly rewatchable Jim Carrey comedy. I'm saying this is the kind of movie you watch to cheer you up after a long day, man. This is it's just something kind of pure and simple about Liar Liar. It's just got some iconic kind of comedic setups. It's I think the bits are just kind of ingrained into the culture. I don't know. It's in a world where we're surrounded by legal dramas, a legal comedy that is like the legal comedy. It just feels like, yeah, this is the way to go. It's just kind of funny. Just again, it's just kind of Jim Carrey, kind of in that. It's kind of the refined version. Jim Carrey was this completely untapped potential and talent in '94 when he made his splash. In terms, we were all just amazed by him. And this is when he's just kind of refined it to like it's fully him in like peak physical condition in terms of just what he can do and in showing that he can do it without like a gimmick or without mind you. I know
like the blue meth of Jim Carrey in his comedic era before he started getting into like really serious dramatic acting.
I would say so. This is like literally this is the tipping point before we get into like Truman Show and beyond, like Man on the Moon, Truman Show and beyond. So it's just this was just kind of like, again, I know technically the lying thing is kind of it's kind of the gimmick of the premise, but it's like before like a gimmick of like Ace Ventura or The Mask. Again, it's a role versus a character, and it's just mostly so this movie like lives and dies by just Jim Carrey being really good at what he does. And again, I love that we have a great sampling of it. It is funny, but when we hit the pathos, it's great. And you're right, it doesn't do what Click does. It doesn't like completely, throw the whole thing out of whack. Where it's like I'm in conflict on Click because why am I going to Adam Sandler only liking the dramatic parts? Something's wrong.
Yeah.
This is the best.
No, I think this. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
This is the best. This is the full platter, man. I'm getting the full smorgasbord of comedy here.
Yeah, I agree. I think this movie's kind of the full package. When I think this movie holds up, frankly, a lot better than something like Ace Ventura or even The Mask does. As much as I do still like The Mask, I think, Dragon, I'm really glad you brought up the Jimmy Stewart comparison because I really think that is kind of like this does very much have like that Frank Capra kind of energy to it, and I think it really does kind of shine through here with his with his vibe and his performance. Again, I love the illogical logic. I love how much this movie goes out of its way to establish the rules of its on surface level, very basic premise, and milks it for all it's worth. It's really great in that extent. I think that and like we keep saying, I think the tone is just like perfect. It's not overly goofy, it's not overly sentimental, it's right there in the middle where it needs to be. So yeah. All right, that'll do it.
Yep.
Okay. So big thanks to Teddy, Code Geass. Let's see, Eli popped in literally once, which is fine. Happy to have you. All right, y'all rock. I'm very excited to get into more Jim Carrey stuff this month, along with some other offerings. We still got Daredevil we're doing every week. All right, well, that'll be it for us. Have a good night, everyone. See you later.
The pen is royal blue.